Hi, I'm Dr. Streicher, and I am so excited about this particular Facebook Live. This is something I've been looking forward to for a long time because, unlike my other Facebook Lives, which are primarily about menopause, this is going to be about something completely different. We'll talk about menopause a little bit, but this I think is going to be a lot more fun. Not that menopause isn't fun, but this all started about a year ago when I discovered a cousin that I did not know that I had. Thank you, Ancestry DNA. And among all the other things we're going to talk about what it's like to meet someone biologically that you are very much alike, there's always the mystery of what's your family going to be like. And my cousin Debbie, I think, was a little, I don't know, it was kind of strange having a gynecologist as a cousin that is kind of known out there as being a sexual medicine and a vagina doctor. But she, jumped right in there with the flow, and we've become good friends. And we decided to do this Facebook Live together to not only tell our story, which we think is kind of interesting, but also to talk about menopause and genetics. And Debbie's a big fitness expert, so we're going to talk about that. And we're just going to let this conversation take us wherever it goes. And please feel free to put questions, comments, anything you would like to talk about in the chat, because we can certainly go a number of different directions. But at this point, I want to introduce my cousin, Debbie. So, hi, Debbie.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, everybody.
Okay, do we not look alike? I mean, I think, let me tell just a minute of my side of the story, because I really want to hear about your side. But when I was contacted through Ancestry, it was actually Debbie's daughter that contacted me, and I was intrigued. And so I called her, and she explained that she had reason to believe that her mother was my first cousin, my mother's brother's daughter. And I believed it because I do believe in science and genetics, and the story made sense for a lot of reasons. And we decided to meet. And when we met, and you have to keep in mind, this is COVID, right? So we met at a restaurant, and we both had masks on, and I went by myself, and I was curious, but I wasn't emotionally invested in this whole thing. I was just curious. And we took off our masks, and we looked at each other's faces, and we were, oh my God, we look like sisters. And suddenly we both got very emotional, and I got very emotional. So, Debbie, you tell me, how did this come about for you, and what was your first reaction?
Yeah, it's been just incredibly fascinating for me. Growing up, I really didn't have a lot of interest in finding out about my birth family. I just kind of, when we don't know all the facts, we just fill in the blanks. And I had just kind of filled in the blanks. So the story worked for me. But then my daughters became very interested. And so I told them, yeah, if you want to do one of those DNA kits, absolutely go for it. And they did. And lo and behold, through a lot of detective it started, I was out to lunch with a friend, and one of my daughters called me and said, Mom, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah, I'm having lunch. And she goes, you're Jewish. She said, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And you said, oy vey.
I said, oy vey. And they're like, and people have said, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, it's just been absolutely amazing. And then when we met in Chicago, it was just so overwhelming. For those of you that don't know Lauren, she's from just an amazing family, judges, physicians, just really a wonderful, wonderful family. And to find out that I am part of that family has just been just such a blessing and absolutely amazing. And I don't have any sisters.
Well, you told me what you expected. You said, I always thought that my family would be
a bunch of circus freaks.
Yeah, circus freaks, exactly.
Yeah.
When we think in terms of family, I mean, I'm very lucky because I'm very close with my family, and I have a wonderful family. All I have is brothers. I have 3 wonderful brothers who I'm very close with, and their wives who I like very much. But, they're brothers. I never had a sister. And even when it comes to cousins on my mother's side, which is the side that you're on, I have one cousin, a one-woman cousin that we were, close when we were little, and growing up. But honestly, we don't see each other. We don't talk often. Although she knows we're doing this, I'm hoping she'll log on. But so for me, meeting you beyond the curiosity of, oh my God, I have another first cousin, is that we bonded so quickly and we were so much alike that I thought, wow, my brothers are great, but this is really fun. This is really fun to have someone that I feel like there's this other connection with.
And I want to share this real quick. on, I didn't know what it would be like, of course, on your side. And then when she said that meeting your cousin from Indiana, part of you was like, oh my gosh, is she going to be, some crazy Trump supporter? And then, once we met, I mean, yeah, we were just so alike in so many ways. Like, yeah, I'm the one.
So many ways.
Yeah, I'm the one liberal from Indiana.
Well, I think there's more than one. But, but politics aside, I mean, there was just this immediate sense of, I know you.
Yes.
And what that really tells you is how strong genetics are. We always talk about nature versus nurture, and I'm certainly a believer in that it's a combination of both. But this was really striking, not to mention your son who joined us. When he walked in the door, it was seeing my uncle all over again. My uncle who he died back in 2007. And to his knowledge, and as far as we know, he was never married. He never knew that he had children. And I was extremely, extremely close with him. We spent a great deal of time together, and he was an extraordinary man. Your dad. I mean, he was just extraordinary, in terms of being bright and interesting and very handsome and quite the ladies' man, which is how this probably all started anyway. But so for me, that was also a treat because I miss him. And then to see you and your family and your beautiful children, and it was just really, really quite amazing. And so now I have to ask you, and I know you're being public about all this, so now that you're telling all of your friends and everyone in Indiana that we're asking you gynecologic questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
do you say, oh, well, of course I can tell you the best.
Of course. Yeah, I'm almost a gynecologist. I read the book, and my cousin. And I have just enjoyed your book so much. I thought it was fantastic. Loved Francie. So one of the takeaways that I'm just telling everybody wherever I go, don't sleep with your underpants on.
Do you know, I get these queries from magazines all the time, and I'm not making this up. I got a query from HuffPost today about an article they're doing, and they said, what kind of underwear do you recommend to your patients? And I said, I'm a gynecologist. I don't recommend underwear. You go to Neiman Marcus if you want someone to recommend underwear. I don't recommend underwear. And then I said, and would you be asking me that if I was a male professor and a male gynecologist? I don't think so. And then she said, well, does it matter what kind of underwear you wear? And I said, well, your vagina doesn't really care. The reason that we wear underwear, quite frankly, historically, is to protect your clothes. So people don't do, when you think about back in the day when it wasn't so easy to launder clean clothes, people would have just one or two pairs of pants if you were a guy, and you wore underwear, so you didn't have to wash them all the time. So, but it is interesting, the underwear thing, because there's all these myths out there about, the care of the vulva and the vagina. And in my book, Slip Sliding Away, Turning Back the Clock on Your Vagina, my favorite chapter, we all have our favorite, when you write, you have your favorite chapter, and mine is taking a trip down the feminine hygiene aisle, because it makes me so crazy when women are told to, wear, to use these vulvar washes and perfumes and, sprays and douches and all this stuff. And not only is it just vagina shaming at its best, and really making women feel like everything down there is smelly and horrible and you have to cover it up, and God forbid anyone, looks at it or touches it, which is why women aren't even familiar with their own genitalia a good part of the time. It's really a shame that there's a lot of greedy entrepreneurs out there who are making a lot of money off of women who feel like they have to smell like an English garden from the waist down. So there's that. But now you're an expert. So now when people, but one of the things I was thinking about also when we think in terms of genetics and menopause, and I was just kind of trying to think through, like, what difference does it make? A lot of people don't know their family history. And when it comes to menopause, does it really matter? And for the most part, the answer is no. But there are a couple things that it does matter. And have we talked about this before? I don't think so. But one of them is the age in which someone goes through menopause. Because we always talk about 52 being the average age in this country, but of course that's average. And anytime after 40 is normal. And some women are still pumping out estrogen until they're close to 60. But it turns out a lot of people think that this has to do with when you got your period or when you run out of eggs or something like that. And it really doesn't. It's, for the most part, unless someone has a medical illness or chemotherapy or surgery, but for the most part, it's genetically set. So the age that you get your period has a lot of different factors, but does not influence when you go through menopause. You don't run out of eggs. It's the aging of the ovaries and the eggs. So one of the questions I always ask women when they come in and they're not sure if they're perimenopause or menopause or what's going on, and I'll say, do you know how old your mother was when she went through menopause? And most often they don't, but sometimes that's a guide, or when your older sister did. I don't know if that ever even occurred to you to ask, questions like that.
I didn't realize that menopause had such a genetic link. No, I didn't know.
Well, the other thing there's a genetic link about, I'm actually going to bring up this because the other question I get all the time is how often are hot flashes going to last? And because everyone in their head has this idea that, these might be terrible, but this is only going to be for 2 or 3 years. So I'm just going to tough it out and then, dress in layers and carry a fan and it'll all be over. And in fact, not only does it last a lot longer than most people think, but it actually is genetically set. So this is, I'm gonna pull up, this is wait, do I have this here? There was a slide that I was gonna show. Oh, I don't have it. Never mind. But I was gonna show, I know where I'm gonna share this from here. This is like so fancy, this new thing that I'm doing here. Yeah, can you see that?
No.
The genetic hot flash side? Okay, well, never mind. I'm not going to do that.
One thing that we definitely have in common is we're both not tech savvy.
I'm getting there. I'm definitely much better than I used to be, but now I've completely lost where we are. Okay, never mind. I'm going to cancel that. But anyway, so what that slide was going to show was that genetics really impacts on the length of time hot flashes last. So for Caucasian women, on average, hot flashes last like 7 years. And for Asian women, much less, like 4 or 5 years. Women not only have the worst hot flashes, but they last the longest, like 10 years or more. And so, and a lot of people, well, Asian women, of course, their hot flashes don't last as long because they, eat fish and rice and all that. No, even Asian women that eat cheeseburgers have hot flashes for a shorter period of time. So that's another kind of genetic clue, is you can say to your mother, if you know who your mother is, or your sister, how long did you have hot flashes? And that gives you a little bit of a clue of what your experience is going to be like. But
what's one of the first signs that menopause is starting?
It's different for everybody, and that's a very common question. But for most women, it's if they get periods, they start to have irregular periods. And one of the things is 1/3 of women actually don't get periods because they've had a hysterectomy or they have an IUD or they're on birth control pills. So they don't know. They can't go by that. And then the other thing is people will start to have some flashes very often, will be the first thing. And then they'll, of course, go off and they'll buy all manner of, black cohosh and red clover and all this kind of stuff. And then it all goes away. And they think that it's all going away because they took the red clover and the black cohosh, when in fact it's because they're perimenopausal, and that's just the nature of perimenopause, is it comes and goes and it's all over the place. So, but it is different. And even like in this first book, Slip Sliding Away, which really only deals with the vaginal dryness and urinary changes and all of that. For most women, that actually comes later. It's not the first thing. It's something that occurs a little bit later. And we talked earlier about people saying that they're done with menopause. You're never done with menopause. You enter menopause. And even if the hot flashes go away, the impact of low estrogen on your bones and your brain and your vagina and bladder and all of that, menopause is until death. Your ovaries never start making estrogen again. But the vaginal changes that the character Francie that you saw dancing at the beginning, that she experiences, that can happen early on, but usually that's a little bit later. But people get blindsided for this. We have, looking at the comments, we're heavily into the underpants thing. I like Sandy. She uses douches for washing her Great Danes. Yes, it deodorizes them. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that douching is like still out there, because
not only a big thing when we were younger. I can remember just being in the aisle at the grocery store and there being all these different flavors and all these different scents, and like not understanding.
Were you ever told that you should douche? Is that a thing?
No, I never was, and I don't think I was told not to or to do it. I think I probably reading in a magazine pretty early on. I don't know how I knew, but I knew that we do not need to clean the inside of our bodies.
Well, right. And that's the whole thing about, we talk about language that women, when 90% of the time when they're talking about their vaginas, they're really talking about their vulvas, which is everything external. The only one who can see a vagina is someone who has a speculum and looks inside like me. But yeah, but the douching thing, I actually did not grow up even really hearing about them. I didn't know what they were. And then when I did my residency, and there were all these women who were coming in and telling me that they were douching, and I would say, and it's very cultural and depending on where you live and who your family is, and I would say things like, oh, you shouldn't douche, and they'd be like, you are a filthy, nasty woman. What do you mean I shouldn't douche? Everyone's supposed to douche. Clean women. It's like saying to someone, oh, don't brush your teeth. Don't take a shower. And, douche is shower in French. But we know that not only is it not helpful to douche, but it actually creates all manner of problems, including an increased risk of pelvic inflammatory disease and infertility and infections, and it dries out the tissue. And douching is just
how is it legal to sell this?
Well, that's the big question, and it's unfortunately everything that you see in the aisles is not controlled by the FDA. They're considered to be cosmetics, so they can make whatever claims they want. They can do what they want, and a lot of times you'll see on the FDA label, and it says FDA cleared, which is not the same as FDA approved. And I actually talk about that in the book because it's so important people to understand, because I talk about lubricants and which lubricants damage the tissue and which lubricants actually are good for you. And you would never know it from that walk down the hygiene aisle, because you figure, okay, it's got the FDA thing on it and KY jelly. I mean, everyone knows KY jelly and every doctor's recommending it. And very few people are aware of the fact that KY jelly is like poison in your vagina. It actually dehydrates the tissue. It's really a big problem. And I spend a lot of time talking about that in my lubricant chapter because people don't know. People don't know. They just
don't know. And I really appreciated where you did talk about the difference between, the FDA approved and that it has just FDA cleared. I certainly had the layperson. I think we don't know. So for someone like you to be able to explain that in a way that's so understandable, I just really thought was fantastic.
Okay. One of the things I tried to do with this book is it's a small book. It's a short book. It's a or something. And that was intentional because this is part of a whole series. The first one's about vaginal dryness. The next one's about hot flashes. The one after that is about dating after 40, 50. The one after that is about cancer, and it goes on and on and on. Each one is a different topic in menopause. And the reason I did that is because, I run this menopause clinic. And what I found is that when most people come to the clinic, even though they might check off the questionnaire of 4,000 symptoms that they're having, we always say, okay, but if you can only fix one thing, what would that be? And more often than not, people have one thing that they're just get rid of my hot flashes. Just get me a decent night's sleep. Just make it so sex doesn't hurt like hell. So I thought, people don't want a whole encyclopedia of menopause. They just want you to fix their issue. And so basically I made each of these books is like a consultation with me about that problem. So this first book, The Slip Sliding Away, Turning Back on the Clock on Your Vagina, is just, okay, you have vaginal dryness, you have urinary urgency, you keep getting infections, things are not right since you've gone through menopause, and boom, 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 I'm going to tell you what I tell patients. This is what you need to know to fix these specific problems.
Lauren, we're getting some interesting comments. By the last one, I'm wondering if this person is just being silly, but let's assume that they're not.
No, I don't think so, because
so maybe you want to touch on why
butter and olive oil. So this is my rule of thumb, and again, I do say this in the book. If you use it for making lunch, don't use it for making love. And the reason why is, first of all, do you really want your vagina to smell like olive oil? No. But a lot of people use coconut oil, which does smell nice. But here's the problem. Number one is that oils are not condom compatible, which doesn't matter for everybody. But if you're single and if you're out there, the last thing in the world you want is to be using oil as a lubricant. And this also goes for baby oil and a lot of other, and all the food oils, is it will actually destroy the condom. So that's a bad thing. The other thing is it's actually very thin. Coconut oil doesn't work great. When we look at a lubricant, what we're really looking for is to decrease friction. It's a barrier. So you want to put something in the vagina that's going to coat the vaginal walls that is going to get rid of that sandpapery feeling. And coconut oil is actually pretty thin. It just really doesn't work all that well. And then there is a risk of increased infection when you use any oils. So my mantra about oils, whether it's baby oil, coconut oil, any of that stuff, is that in a pinch, sure, go for it. You know, that's what you've got. You're at home, you know, go for it. But it's not something that should be used on a regular basis. You know, you really want to use a product which we know is not only going to work well, but is going to be safe in terms of not doing bad things to the vaginal tissue, you know, so
Which I
that would
think we
be.
can assume WD-40 would not be inappropriate.
I don't know if Lau is a man or a woman, but
Yeah.
I would say you don't make lunch with WD-40. That's correct, but you don't put it in your vagina either. You know, I don't even, let's put it this way. It certainly has not been tested, but along those lines, I don't even know. So Lau, is WD-40, is that a silicone product or is that an oil-based product? Because I do talk a lot about silicone lubes. And interestingly, silicone lubes, which are really good, they're the, you know, really the best lubes because they're super slippery. They don't do bad things to the vagina. They're really good. But the problem with silicone lubes is that you want them to be pure. So, for example, you know the silicone products you can put in your hair? I mean, it's basically the same stuff in the vagina, except it might have fragrance in it and this and that. So I don't know what WD-40 has in it.
I have an assistant here, and I think she's going to slide me some information. My assistant.
Good. I'm dying.
Oh, she says WD-40 stands for water displacement.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is. That's interesting. So Lisa, pink. Okay, so there's two pinks. There's water-based pink and there's silicone-based pink. And the silicone-based pink is a terrific product. I agree. It's good stuff, and it is certainly on my list of good silicone lubes. The water-based lubes, and I'm not going to get into this now because people who are interested can read it in the book, but the water-based lubes, a lot of them have a very high osmolality, which is the problem with the KY products. And so I have to look up, I don't remember the water-based pink, how high the osmolality is, if it's a good one or not, but the silicone is definitely on the recommended list of lubes that are good. You know, and I have my YouTube channel, of course, and right now the video that is doing the best, I don't know why, I can never figure out the trends in these things, but the video that's doing the best is how do you use a lube? How do you use it? And it's so funny because I always say that, and I say this in my video, I talk about this in the book a little bit too, is that, you know, you buy shampoo and it's like goes into excruciating details about what's really obvious. You know, you open it, you squeeze it, you rinse it out. It's like, thanks. Like, I never would have figured that out. And then you get the lube and people just, they don't even know what to do with it. So, you know, I kind of go through okay, this is where you put it. This is how you get it where it needs to go. This is when you use it, because people just don't know. But it's like I said, I'm trying to be very solution oriented in this book. And okay, W4, not silicone. I don't know what it is, but we're not going to use it as a lubricant.
Oh, my assistant says it's a petroleum.
Oh, petroleum. Okay, petroleum jelly. Petroleum is on the list of do not put in your vagina. And the reason also, not condom compatible, it eats up condoms. And the second is that it can increase infection. So sorry, Lo, save your WD-40 for your squeaky other things, but not for your sandpaper vagina problems, because we have better things to do. So one of the things I want to talk about with you, Debbie, because one of the things that we discovered at that initial meeting about things we both share and that we like is we both like to exercise. We both like to work out. And what we particularly both like is hiking.
Yes.
So we are going to be taking a hike together, excited about that. But I mean, your fitness is what you do. So could you talk to us a little bit about fitness for the over 40 woman and just kind of how you direct people and your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, I would love to. So, you know, we lose some bone density with, you know, entering menopause. And so it's so important, ladies, to do that strength training. And I know a lot of women feel like, you know, I only have this small amount of time in my busy day to exercise. So I want to get the most bang for my buck. So I want to hit that cardio. I want to burn those calories. You know, metabolism might be slowing down a little bit. Got to burn those calories. And cardio is fantastic, but it's so crucial to be doing those weight bearing exercises. And one that I'd really like to
give us
is doing.
I'm
sorry?
Of weight bearing. Give us an example of some weight bearing exercises because people really don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent point. Some squats, And I'd love to see you hold some weights when you do those squats, a really big range of motion. An exercise that I have all my classes do every single time is a high plank, and that's where you're on your hands and you're in that plank position. And when you're doing that, you're working your shoulders, you're working your core, which isn't just the front, it's the sides and the back. You're working your legs, but you have weight on your wrist, so you're building bone density in those wrist bones, which is so super, super important.
That's one of the vulnerable. Okay, and while we're talking about planks, because I'm big on planks, but I do the planks where I do like the shoulder taps and that. But the other thing is let's talk about the core, because, and I do talk about this a bit in the book, because so many women, as they go through menopause, we talk about bone loss, and that's certainly one big issue. But the other is women who have bladder control issues, whether it's the urgency, the gotta go feeling, which is a result of lack of estrogen, but also women who have stress incontinence, where they cough, laugh, sneeze. All of this is controlled by the pelvic floor, those all important muscles. Yeah. And plank is a great way to get that core going, right?
Yeah, and if you feel like, oh, I can't, and I have women say this all the time, I can't do planks. I can only do a plank for, a couple of seconds. That's great. Do your plank for 10 seconds. Then next thing you know, you can do it for 15. This is an area where you absolutely do get stronger. And, you can have the most beautiful triceps, strong, curvy shoulders. But if your entire core is weak, that will affect absolutely every area of your life. So I just encourage my classes, plank, and I have a million different varieties. And
you have to, you don't get bored.
Yeah, mix them up. You can do a high plank, side planks. I actually teach a core class once a week, because I just feel so strongly that keeping that core strong is just so incredibly important. Yeah.
But even just, when we talk about weight-bearing exercise and osteoporosis, which we should actually just do a whole thing on that. But, people don't realize that even just walking, because when we think about hips versus spine, and those core and the weights and all that are great for your spine and wrists and all that, but even just walking is going to help in terms of hip. And osteoporosis of the hip that can result in hip fracture is potentially fatal. It is an enormous issue. And we're living longer and better. And it's really just so sad when someone ends up with an osteoporotic fracture late in life. So we're going to circle back and come back to that and talk about it another time, because I think we should just do a whole Facebook Live on osteoporosis and bone health and all the different strategies that we can do. So I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions coming in here. No. So we're kind of stuck on the WD-40 stuff and underwear. Isn't that funny? Leslie Montenegro, hi. I remember you back from high school. I see some of my high school friends here. There was to circle back to underwear, I mean, what can I say? There was actually a poll that was done. It was a big poll. I forgot, it was BuzzFeed or something, that they'd asked me about it. And they polled something insane, like 10,000 women, to say, do you sleep with your underwear or do you not sleep with your underwear? And it was about 50-50, which in and of itself was kind of interesting. But people were like, just so rabid about it. It's like, oh my God, of course who wouldn't, you have to sleep with your underwear, or you must air it out. So because we didn't really give something definitive on that, the truth of the matter is it really doesn't matter. You should be comfortable to sleep with your underwear on or off. It's whatever you want, it's equal opportunity. And the commando thing, always commando, Leslie. Yes, thanks for sharing. And then there's the thong. There's all these people who are like, well, thong is bad for you, right? And I'm like, no. If you're comfortable wearing a thong, wear a thong. But there's this one.
The thongs were bad. I remember hearing that back, I think, when they probably first came out.
Yeah, it was because mothers didn't want their daughters wearing thongs, so they said, oh, it's not good for you. And then there was this whole thing about that the thong that went between the buttocks, that it would contaminate the vagina, because somehow the bacteria from the anus was going to go walking down the thong and enter the vagina and the urethra and would increase the risk of infection. And that is on the list. Yeah, I know, you can just picture it walking along, but that goes on the list of myths, that no thong underwear does not increase your risk of urinary tract infections or bacterial infections in the vagina. Wiping back to front. We should do a whole thing on myths. How many people in the chat room out there, how many people think that it matters whether you wipe front to back or back to front? Doesn't matter. There's not one study that shows that it matters. You just have to, wipe the two areas separately, but whether you go this way or this way, it doesn't matter. All these things about yeast infections, about how you can't sit in a wet bathing suit. And I always say, okay, do you think Olympic swimmers have more yeast infections than the rest of the world? No. It has nothing to do with sitting in a wet bathing suit, because it has to do with what's going on inside the vagina, not on the vulva. It might be uncomfortable to sit in a wet bathing suit, but that doesn't increase your risk of vaginal yeast infection. So, I shouldn't have gone down that road because, the whole myth thing, I could go on and on and on about gynecologic myths that are based on just what your grandmother told you. And doctors believe them too. That's the problem, is I can't tell you how often a doctor will say, well, you must wear cotton underwear or you're never going to get rid of that yeast infection. That's never been proven, ever. You're going to get a urinary tract infection unless you jump out of bed right after you have sex. No, never been proven. It just, so next time we'll do
how are doctors getting this information wrong?
Because it's something that you just told and you just carry it through. When I was a resident, I remember being told that pregnant women should not take baths. I was told that by another doctor. And I said, well, why? And he said, it's just pregnant women shouldn't take baths. I was told that. And I'm thinking, okay, this really makes no sense at all. I'm going to look into this. So I did. I started looking things up and trying to see, where did this come from? And I found that there was an obstetric textbook from like 1920 that said pregnant women should never take baths because they are too likely to slip and fall getting in and out of the bathtub because they're, they're awkward and, they don't have balance because of their big bellies. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? We are all telling women not to take baths when they're pregnant. And then there's and what if your bag of water breaks and you don't know it because you're in the bathtub? Okay, well, you'll figure it out. You get out of the bathtub, you dry off and the water's going to keep coming. You'll say, oh, maybe my bag of water is broken. So, crazy stuff like that just people just, keep passing down, even though there's absolutely no rationale behind it. So I think I'll do that on Facebook. I'm just going to put a question out there of what myth or what do you believe to be true that you're wondering if it's really a myth or really true, just to do a whole Facebook Live on that.
Well, from my experience, now that I'm, telling everyone to stop wearing their underwear at night, I can tell you most of the women I have told that to, well, of course I don't wear underwear at night. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, how would we know it? You don't know what's going on in everyone's bedrooms. That's
right.
One of the other things out there that's always kind of interesting. Well, so this has been really fun. I'm going to see if there's is dry skin related to menopause and what can be done about it? And the answer, Alejandra, I hope I'm saying that right, is yes. Actually, dry skin is related to menopause. And the reason why, and wrinkles too, it's the same thing. And the reason why is that we have estrogen receptors everywhere in our body. Everyone thinks this, that estrogen's only in the vagina and the vulva. You have estrogen receptors in the skin, in the bladder, in the brain. And so that loss of estrogen does have an impact. And in skin specifically, what we are seeing is a loss of collagen. Huge loss in collagen, which is why we get, the saggy thing and the wrinkles, because your skin actually gets thinner and it gets drier. And there have been a lot of studies looking at what's going to make a difference. And the one thing that every dermatologist will tell you is the thing that's going to make the biggest difference is to start wearing sunscreen when you're like 12 and never stop, because that is going to have a big impact on the tissue. But once you go through menopause, certainly there's moisturizing and skincare, and I'm not a dermatologist, so I'm not an expert on that. But I will tell you that women that use estrogen and choose to take estrogen, which is a whole nother topic that we're not going to get into on this particular program, but their skin is better. And then if you go to my website, drstreicher.com, and I have a tab that says of historical interest, and I talk about when Elizabeth Arden used to have estrogen in her face cream, and it actually does help skin. And I actually will confess that I put a little estrogen on my face as well. I mostly think I have pretty good skin because I was too busy reading and wasn't out in the sun. And genetically, my mother had beautiful, beautiful skin. The Bass girls, Bass is my mother's maiden name, so Debbie's a Bass girl too. And the Bass girls always had nice skin. So there is a genetic thing. But yeah, menopause definitely has an impact. What else? Any other questions? But and the other thing also about the dry skin thing is that is going to be in the series of books. I think that's going to be probably book 6 or 7. I'm going to talk about menopause and hair because there's hair changes too. That's a whole nother topic. Skin, weight. Weight is a huge topic as well. Oh, I didn't mean that, but it's a huge topic. But I think when women come to the clinic, they just everyone has their primary issue, and for so many women it's, oh my god, what happened to my body? I'm getting heavy, and the wrinkles, and it causes a lot of distress. So I'm firmly of the mind of you don't have to accept it if it's upsetting to you. There's a lot of things that we can do to continue to look good and to feel good. I mean, that's what looking good is really all about. It's about feeling good. And, when we talk about healthy eating and healthy weights, it's really about, yes, heart health and diabetes and all of that, but it's also about feeling good because guess what? We are now going to live 1/3 to 1/2 of our life after the menopause transition. If the average age is 52, and a lot of women go into menopause in their mid 40s or late 40s, and our life expectancy is now in the 80s and 90s, then we're looking at half of our life. Debbie, you haven't asked in our family what the life expectancy is.
That's no, I know that my birth father, he lived pretty long.
Not long enough. I miss him every day. Yeah, he was Bill. Your dad, my uncle, was extraordinarily healthy. He played tennis up until he got sick. He died of a stroke, which is in my family. Unfortunately, we're a heart disease stroke family. But he was amazingly fit, like you. I know where you got your fitness thing, because he never sat still. He always looked good and was active and was a huge tennis player up until the time when he had his stroke. So, but in general, other than little heart disease, our family does pretty well. My mom actually did die of cancer, but she was the one in the family. Everyone else is heart and stroke stuff. So you and I just have to go out of our way to continue to exercise and eat right and all of that.
Well, Lauren, I think just one of my favorite takeaways from your book is that we don't have to put up some of these things that maybe we have kind of been led to believe that we need to, and there are solutions, and it might take a while to find one. But there are solutions, and just you don't have to put up with this.
Well, the other thing also, and thank you for saying that, Deb, because the thing that's so frustrating to me is so many women, they go to their doctor and they get brave enough to finally ask about things like painful sex or their incontinence, all that kind of stuff, and their doctor basically says, well, this is just part of getting older. And so the woman goes out of there thinking, okay, well, there is no solution. This is just part of. And that kind of stuff just makes me crazy because, yes, it is part of getting older, but common is not the same thing as normal. It is not normal to have painful sex. It is not normal to have to, go to the bathroom every 10 seconds. It is not normal to be flashing all day and all night so that you can't think and you can't sleep and you can't work. And so that's exactly the point is I'm solution oriented. And this clinic that I run at Northwestern, the Center for Sexual Medicine and Menopause, the majority of the women that come to this clinic, we're like their 10th opinion. And they have found their way there on their own. Their own doctors are not referring them. They find us because they are desperately looking for answers. And then when they come in, they were like, oh yeah, we can fix this. This is easy. Sure. These are your options. Here's what you can do. And they just, they're grateful, but then they're also upset. It's like, how come my doctor didn't tell me this stuff? There's another question. Could you put a cream on your face? And the answer is, you can. The cream vagina will not do well on your face. And the reason why is because the vehicle that it's crusty, it won't be good. And it's because it's the you have a keratinized layer on your face. So when I confess that I put a little estrogen on my face, I forming a nice base. Hyaluronic acid, yes. Hyaluronic acid is actually very good for a number of things. Hyaluronic acid is basically a moisturizer. It sucks water into cells, and it works both on your face, but also in the vagina. There's two long-acting moisturizers that I recommend that have been clinically shown to make a difference. One is Replen's long-acting moisturizer, and the other is the hyaluronic acid products that go in the vagina. I talk about that. There's my chapter in the book, it's called Moisturizers Are Not Just for Your Face, and I talk about vaginal moisturizers specifically, of which the hyaluronic acid products are very, very helpful, very, very useful.
Lauren, what's the next book in your series that we can look forward to?
And the next book is going to be Hot Flash Hell. And poor Francie, who in the first book suffers from, vaginal dryness and lack of lubrication and painful sex and then recurrent urinary tract infections. And she finally gets control of that, only to then go on and get god-awful all day, all night hot flashes to the point that she almost loses her job because she can't think straight, she can't sleep, she can't function. And I always say, if this happened to the guys, they'd be given plenty of solutions. They wouldn't just be told. So that's the next book, which I think will be out probably in about 2 months. It's almost finished writing it. And then the one after that is going to be the Dating After 40 book, which is going to be a lot of fun. That one I'm having a good time writing. And then, yeah, we'll talk. And then after that is going to be menopause and cancer, because so many women are either in menopause and get cancer, or get cancer and then go into menopause, and no one is helping those women. So I actually wanted that to be my second book, but I got outvoted on that one. So I'm holding off, but that'll probably be, I'm guessing winter. I'll get to that one. It depends. I'm a pretty fast writer, but I'm excited. And the other thing also is, please, I'm loving suggestions. A lot of people are saying, write a book about this or do something about this. And I have a general plan, but it's just, but plans are made to be broken, right? Plans are made to be changed. So if I get enough people who say, hey, do something else, I will. All right. You have to use it or lose it, Sarah. I talk about that in my book too. So my mantra is fix it and then use it or lose it. Because a lot of people who have painful sex, they think, well, it's because I'm not using it enough, and then they keep trying to have sex, and then it just gets more and more painful, because your vagina is not stupid, and if it hurts, your vagina is going to go, don't come in here, don't do that. So in fact, one of the things that we often tell people who are having painful sex is stop trying. When I say sex, there's intercourse in their sex, so we're always very specific. So if someone's having painful intercourse, I'll say stop trying to have intercourse, because it's just going to cause a lot of pain.
Your dentist joke in the book, that was amazing.
Which one? Oh, the dentist joke. This goes under the bad joke title. It's when the woman comes home and says to her husband, my gynecologist says I can't have sex for 2 weeks. And her husband says, well, what does your dentist say? Yeah, I know. But yeah, I took out a lot of the bad jokes, but that went nice. But the use it or lose it thing, but to return to that, but the truth is that we do know that women that have intercourse on a regular basis do maintain more elasticity, more lubrication than someone that nothing's been in there for 20 years. So I do encourage women, if there's not an actual penis in their life, and if they are interested in at some point having penile vaginal intercourse, that they keep things going with a toy, not only for their own pleasure, but we know most women don't get their pleasures from external clitoral stimulation and vibrators, and that's a whole nother book, which I'm going to be doing. That's actually I forgot, Francie loses her orgasm. So that's like book 5. So when Francie loses her orgasm, then I get into the whole vibrator thing. Poor Francie, but we're going to fix her. And for those of you who missed the beginning and you get to see Francie dancing, then you can actually take a look at the beginning on YouTube and Facebook. And please share this, because we want everyone to know about this stuff. And I will do a shout out as we finish up, because I'm going to play the little music at the end that I played at the beginning, is that my wonderful, talented husband, Jason Brett, wrote the Francie theme song. And that's him playing the music. And there will be lyrics eventually. He's still working on that. And then I'm sure we'll put it on iTunes and it will be wildly, wildly popular. What is your view of the procedure of venous touch laser treatment? Grace, this is an excellent, I actually have an entire chapter on laser in the book, and CO2 laser, which I have a very big program at Northwestern. And laser, if it's done by the right person, in the right hands, using the right device, it is phenomenal. But it's like a lot of other things, you have to be careful. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on that one right now because we are running out of time. We do need to close up. But I do have a chapter on that in the book. And the book, by the way, you can get it on Amazon. I made it really inexpensive. It's $3.99 for the digital copy because I'm just trying to get it out there, make it accessible. And the paperback is $9.99. It's always interesting. I never can predict what people are going to get. A couple of weeks ago, the paperback was really flying off the shelves, and today it's been digital. And I am #1 in menopause on Amazon today. So yay, very excited about that. So, but what this tells me is people are looking for this information. They're looking for this information, and I think I finally figured out a way to get it out there because people don't want to read these huge books. They really just want targeted stuff. So I'm going to close this up. Debbie, thank you so much for jumping. I mean, this was like beyond that, I mean, not only do you find out you've got a vagina doctor as a cousin, but then you're willing to come on and publicly talk about all this stuff. That's why I love you so much.
And I didn't even have to show my vagina.
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. But no, seriously, I love that we met. We can get into the whole thing on ancestry DNA. Sometimes it's not such a good thing. It doesn't always go well. So, but this was one of those happy things that not only did it go well, but you've enriched my life. I'm happy that you are my cousin, and I look forward to our families getting to know each other more now that COVID is over and we can all blend and we're vaccinated and it's all good. So I am going to bring this to a close, and you can hear the Francie theme song for 30 seconds here, and there's on my social media stuff, so please follow me. It makes me feel good. Oh, and this week on Instagram, I do have a book and a silicone lube giveaway. And so go to Instagram, and you too can exactly. You will get your lube, your book, and I'm doing at least one giveaway on that. Then there will be more. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And tomorrow night, I'm doing an Instagram live with Amanda Thebes, who's like this crazy, amazing, athletic menopause person. So that's going to be fun too. So follow me on social media so you can figure out all that stuff and then let me know what you'd like to hear. So bye, everybody.